Well, the Ohio State Buckeyes have made their way to Southern California as they finish up their prep before the Rose Bowl that's going to happen on Wednesday afternoon against the Oregon Ducks. Today on this Matchup Monday, a new one, a Matchup Monday edition of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast, we dive in to the Oregon offense and what Ohio State must do on the defensive side of the ball to make sure they get out of there with a win. All that coming up on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State
with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today.
Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All-Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
And welcome in, everybody, to the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast. Anthony Moeglin alongside my partner, former Buckeye Kevin Woidke. And Kevin is on location somewhere in the Midwest. I am just about 24 hours from heading west myself to Southern California, as we'll be on site for the Rose Bowl coming up here in just a few days. And Kevin, there's so much hype and circumstance and pomp around this matchup, around this game. It's two of the best teams in college football, and kind of the storyline nationally going into this thing is that the potential national champion might come out of this game. Yes, it is a round two matchup, but it's got really everything you could want in this Rose Bowl, as Ohio State's taking on the one team that's been able to get out. Well, I guess there's two teams now, but the best team in the country trying to knock off the Oregon Ducks and trying to do so in the granddaddy of them all inside the Rose Bowl.
Oh yeah, I mean it's really cool. I heard some people talking about it this week, how it's a true Rose Bowl, old-fashioned Rose Bowl game, where it's former Pac-12 versus Big Ten. Only way it could have been more true is if Oregon State was the one seed. But no, it's a great bowl. It's a great time. I mean, people are talking about it like it's going to be the greatest the greatest of all the bowl games this year. But I mean that just happens when it's the granddaddy of them all. I mean, you go to Lowry's Steakhouse, you do all the fun stuff leading up to it, then you strap up the cleats, let the stealth bomber fly overhead, and go to war.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and I'm really excited that it's this matchup that's kind of taking place. And yes, there's certainly conversation to be had about, hey, did Oregon kind of get screwed in their draw? Like all that stuff, I think is totally fair. But when all the dust settles, you're going to get the two best teams, in my opinion, and I think in our opinion, we share in this in college football, playing inside the Rose Bowl, inside the greatest spectacle in all of college football, and it has all the makings of being an awesome game. Both teams are playing really, really good football. And I think that the matchup's happening at the perfect time. So, Kev, as we dive into this Matchup Monday edition, I know it's a little different with the game being on Wednesday, but Ohio State gets to Southern California yesterday, and you've played in your fair share of bowl games. And I've asked you this 100 times, but I keep forgetting. Did you play in the Rose Bowl or no?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, you did. So talk us through like what that's like. I'm sure it's a little bit different being that this is the college football playoff and maybe some other things, but they get there on Sunday night and you got 3 or 4 days of preparation left before the game. But what's that like as the team arrives? And I have it on our ticker here. It's the heroes welcome. They're the talk of the town, and they got 4 days to kind of enjoy themselves while get prepared for the biggest game of the season.
Yeah, it's a really cool event. I went to it when it wasn't a college football playoff. It was more of, hey, this is our last game of the year. So we were a little more lax. But it is really cool. You have Lowry's Steakhouse. Everyone knows Lowry's seasoned salt. You get the prime rib there. We went to a comedy event, which was cool, down in Hollywood. And then, it's just we stayed at the Intercontinental downtown. We went over to Santa Monica Pier. We did all the fun touristy stuff you do in California. Jumped in some Ubers, had some good times. It was really cool. But then you get to Pasadena, you drive in, beautiful town. You get up to the stadium. I mean, you take pictures there the day before, so you've been there once before. Then I think we took our team picture there for some reason. I don't remember why. But then you get to see it firsthand. You get to see it on the ground, which is really cool. All these bricks that of previous winners with their names on it. I got to figure out if I missed an email to get my name on that brick. So if Anthony or Brendan, whoever shows up there, if you want to take a look for the 2019 Rose Bowl, shoot me a picture. Let me know if I missed the memo. I got to figure out how to do that. But no, it's a really, really cool event. And then the locker rooms are spectacular. We were in the home one, but I assume the away one's just as nice. It's big. It's full. And then, yeah, I mean, that stadium's awesome because it's like a low riser. You just look out and it looks like people go on forever. It's really, really cool.
That's so cool. And just you describing that gets me all jacked up because for those of you heading out for the first time, or maybe you've been there a bunch, you always see it, and it is, the greatest spectacle in all of college football. And Kev, from you talk about, hey, you're killing some time potentially, you're doing some fun stuff throughout the week, but from a preparation standpoint, yes, yours was different from, hey, you guys are just playing in basically an exhibition game. But where do you practice? What does that kind of look like? Do you practice at UCLA or USC, or how does that all work? Or do you have to find a random field, or what does that part of it look like? The actual preparation to play football kind of look like?
So I'm not sure where Washington practiced when we were there, but we practiced at the LA Chargers compound, which
nice.
also houses the U.S. national soccer team, as well as a couple tennis courts. It's a giant, giant facility. You had to walk like half a mile just to get to the field in your cleats and pads, which was always a blast. But it was really cool. So that's where we did ours. I'm not 100% sure where that we were the home team then, so I don't know where the away team does it or if that matters. I'm not sure because when we played the Fiesta Bowl multiple times, one home, one away, it was at the same facility. So
Okay.
it's like it was just a matter of where we ended up. I think the teams get to pick. But that was the only bowl game I played multiple times was the Fiesta Bowl. I played it 3 times, and we were at the same place all 3 times. Yeah. So it was cool.
You forget, or at least I forgot, that there's even 2 NFL, compounds out there, 2 NFL facilities, right? You got the Rams, you got the Chargers, obviously, and then you got UCLA, USC. They're not short on football fields and elite football complexes for these 2 teams to get after it. So, ton of content that came from there last night. Obviously, we weren't on site, but Will Howard spoke to the media, and somebody else did. I forget who the second person was, but just quick little hitters as the boys were getting off the plane and getting to the team hotel. So really exciting stuff there. It's starting to rise, right? It's starting to get to feel like, hey, this is happening, and we got a couple days to wait still, but it is right around the corner. One of the best things, in my opinion, is what the uniforms end up being. Yes, this is a weird little thing about me, but I do like how the teams get after this. And Ohio State's coming with their white on grays, right? And we're gonna pull it up here. Obviously, pulled this right from Twitter itself, but they're going with their white jerseys on the gray pants, and then you can't see it in these pictures, but they have on their red stripe down the middle of their helmet, they have a couple hints of the roses going through. It's a really cool look. If you haven't seen it, head to our Twitter page. I've been dialing it up every time I could. And then on the flip side of things, Oregon is going with their throwback. They're going with a little that Daffy Duck throwback with that light green and yellow. I don't see any hints to roses. I know every team tries to do that. That's part of the whole deal, but I don't see anything here. However, I do think that that these jerseys kind of match up pretty well together. Kev, right on the spot, what's your first opinion of, hey, we got the classic Ohio State versus a potential kind of alternate coming out of Oregon?
Awesome. Yeah, I read something this week that Nike wasn't putting out their typical, when you make the CFP, they give you a custom jersey with the diamond swoosh and everything. Sure. That's fresh for that, but they're only doing that, I think, for either the semifinal or the national champion this year. So it's one of those 2. So I expected this from Ohio State, and then Oregon just spin the wheel. and it'll land on something.
Spin the wheel is a perfect way to go about it, and I think it's going to be pretty sweet, And it's I do like Ohio State going. We were very vocal about this. I just shouldn't say very, but you and I both were kind of against the Scarlet on Scarlet in round one. Turned out to be a banger of a uniform. Like that thing, it turned out to look so sweet, and I'm glad they kind of go back to that classic feel of the white on top of the gray for this big matchup here. So a little bit of fun, a little bit of fun there as we get to prepping for that. So when we dive into that kind of the actual numbers here, Kev, I think this matchup is actually, as I've kind of studied it a little bit more, it's starting to, in my opinion, favor the Buckeyes pretty heavily, because I think that from the Oregon game back in October until now, Ohio State, specifically on defense, has just gotten better and better and better and better. And the truth of the matter is that the last team to throw a touchdown against the Ohio State Buckeye defense was Dillon Gabriel back in October, which is pretty crazy. They're currently on a 7-game streak where they haven't given up a passing touchdown. And for Oregon, they try to stay really, really balanced, but what drives the car for them is Dillon Gabriel in this passing attack. And Ohio State's defense has really hit its stride in terms of defending the pass and getting home and making the life of the quarterback really, really challenging.
Yeah, I mean, the closest, and I think it couldn't have been any closer to a touchdown after the Oregon game, was the David Igbinosa interception against Penn State, or the throw that Jack Sawyer picked off the end zone that I think couldn't have been a worse throw if he tried. And there was nobody around.
You could have completed that one.
I mean, I think my dog could have completed that one. I don't even have a dog. But no, it's been really fun to watch this defense. It was a wake-up call that was needed in the past defense was against Oregon. That was a wake-up call that was needed in the wrong defense against Team North. And that's just what we've seen. And it's pretty evident. Like our run defense wasn't really there. It wasn't bad, but I mean, they weren't great teams against the run. But I mean, outside of that goal line stand against Penn State, they kind of walked it down the field on us. And then, Indiana kind of ran it a little bit. Same with Northwestern. Then Tennessee comes in, who got one of the best offensive lines, running backs in the country. Granted, he didn't play the whole game because he had some tightness and some soft tissue injury, according to ESPN when I was trying to watch at the bar I was at. But, I mean, they showed up. They played well.
Yeah, and I think you said it perfectly. You said that, the Oregon game was a wake-up call for them in the pass, right? Hey, they kind of diced us up. Gabriel's final numbers in that one, I had him pulled up here, 23 of 34 for 341 and 2. He also ran it really well, 4 for 32 on a score. But that woke them up, and they've talked about it a bunch. Jim Knowles will talk about it every week. I'm sure he'll get asked about it as we get closer to the game and potentially after the game, because after that Oregon game the first time, they started using Caleb Downs in a totally different way. He was more of that post defender, drop back and cover. They brought him up and started to add him to the box, make him a factor at the line of scrimmage, and start using him in a bunch of different ways. And that kind of alerted them to hey, we have to improve this. And then also, Kevin, you and I have been vocally and openly critical of Davison Igbinosa and Denzel Burke. Those two continue to answer the bell week after week after week, and seeing them get better as the year's gone on has been certainly a welcome sight for us and for Buckeye fans at large.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before. Denzel is still, in my eyes, the only team that's really thrown at him is Oregon this year, and it shook his confidence all the way to his core, and I think he's slowly gaining it back, but. I mean, he came in the year as the best cornerback and in the country, or one of the best. And it's all about how you finish. It's not about how you start or how you play in the middle. You could have the best 3 quarters in the world, but if you don't perform the fourth quarter, you lose that game. So it's all about how you finish out your season, how you finish out your career. And I think it would be really, really cool to see Denzel Burke get a redemption arc here against Oregon, because this is where it all started to kind of unravel the first time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's a perfect segue to what this Oregon offense brings to the table. We know it firsthand. That first matchup in October, right? The final score, we don't need a reminder, but 32-31. I already mentioned Dylan Gabriel. He goes for 341 and 2. And then there was just a healthy attack from all over the place. Jordan James, their running back, had 23 carries for 115 yards and 1 score. And then on the receiving side, we thought we caught a huge break early in the game when Trayshawn Holden actually was ejected from the game for spitting in Davison Igbinosun's face. And then from there on, it was Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson. Stewart finishes with 7 catches for 149 and a score. Tez Johnson finished 7 catches for 75 and a score. And really one of the X factors, and you're going to like this, though, was Terrence Ferguson, their tight end, 4 catches for 62 yards. That's the thing with these guys. They can come at you in a multitude of different ways. And one of the big numbers, Kevin, that stands out to me from this Oregon team is that from a receiving perspective, they got 4 guys who've had over 500 yards receiving on the year. They don't have that top end like Ohio State does. Tez Johnson's their leading receiver with 866 yards, but they have a number of guys that they can go to. And Dylan Gabriel is totally fine with dropping back and throwing it to Tez Johnson or getting through his progression to reads 3, 4, and 5 and dropping it down to guys who can make plays and make big plays at that.
Yeah. That's really what it is. And we've played we've played good tight ends. I don't know better, but I mean, TJ Warren is definitely better. And we kind of limited him. And Jim Knowles saw that. I think that the key, though, to this is Dylan Gabriel had a lot of time in that pocket. He was dancing a little bit, but was relatively clean. If we can get some pressure on him to force him to make some throws, I mean, Penn State had a great game against them. I mean, that was a touchdown at the end that kind of brought them within striking distance with Drew Aller on 4th down. But it just, I think this Oregon team is able to be beat, and I think Ohio State is poised to do that because you hear it all time in sports, especially in football. You only heard a lot in CYO, but especially in like a game where you only play once. It's not like basketball or baseball where you play a bunch of times. It's really hard to beat a team twice.
Yeah.
It's really hard to beat a team that you play 16 games in a year twice. That's why almost every NFL game, if it's a pretty balanced conference, you see people split the home and home when they're playing in conference play. It's like for some reason the Browns and the Bengals somehow always play each other and always split it no matter what. You can count 1 loss already from that game. And that's just where it is really, really hard to do that, especially with the motivation Ohio State is going to have, because the team that lost obviously has extra motivation to go out and prove that they are the better team and want to go out and win and don't have a complacency bias that the team that won does.
Yeah, and I think that for Ohio State, I mean, it's like Will Howard came out. I think he said it last night in his little hit. He was like, "Yeah, they've been playing the and I think this is an ode to old Urban Meyer here, and something you may get a kick out of. But I guess they've been playing the highlights of the Oregon game in the facility, just like ever since they got in from the Tennessee win. It's just been the highlights of, or I guess the lowlights, if you will. It's been Tez Johnson making huge catches. It's been, the Jordan James making huge runs and Will Howard sliding down. He's like, dude, it is getting pounded into our heads, the opportunity that we missed out in Oregon. And I don't know, maybe that works, maybe that doesn't, but you played in that, you've experienced that firsthand. Like that's a little bit of a mental warfare there by Ryan Day.
Oh yeah, no, that's Coach Mick. Mick, that's him through and through. It could be Coach. It's probably both of them, but I remember that was always Coach Mick that made a point to have that motivation in front of you. You learned it from, I think it was Bo Schembechler back in back when he took over. He put the score of the game on a mat, and you had to walk over it every time you were walking out onto the field. And you had to see it and look at it. And that's kind of their mentality: is, hey, here is don't forget this is what happened. If you're going to go down a half a second earlier. If you're going to make a pass, throw it with some confidence. Don't loft it into your tight end and hope that the refs miss an interception. Because let's be honest, that's what happened.
Yep.
And that's just from the quarterback's perspective. This offensive line, during this game, you lost your left tackle, you lost your anchor on that left side, and you had to play a makeshift game from that perspective from then on out. You have your line, you have it set. I think Luke Montgomery played great against Tennessee.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to keep rotating people through, but I thought he was awesome. It, let's go. It's just time to strap it up and go.
That's exactly what it is. We'll get into a couple of those comments there in the keys to victory here in just a moment, but a quick whip through of this Oregon offense. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel leads the way. He's thrown it for 3,500 yards on the year, 28 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He doesn't turn it over much. Got that like 3 or 4 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio, so pretty darn good from that perspective. Jordan James, we've hinted at it, 226 carries for 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. He's about 5.5 yards a pop. He was at 5 yards a pop on the dot in that Ohio State game the first time around. So a key to victory there is going to be stopping the run. We'll get to that here in just a moment. And then that receiving core, Tez Johnson, 78 catches for 866 yards, 10 scores. Evan Stewart, 48 catches for 613 yards and 5. Trayshawn Holden, 38 for 602 and 3. And then Terrence Ferguson, 38 for 520 in 3 scores. So just a number of guys to keep your eye on when Oregon has the ball. Obviously, we know their names by now, and it's just going to be really important for Ohio State to limit the damage because this Oregon team does have the ability to explode and put up some really, really big numbers. So, Kev, as we wrap it up, as we get out of here, you mentioned a couple things, but what, in your opinion, are the keys to the game for the Buckeyes when their defense is on the field and they're trying to stop this Oregon attack?
Yeah, I would say, and I said it earlier, get some pressure on Dylan Gabriel. Everyone talked about it in that first game. In the games before it, we really weren't crafting anything up, and then Jim Knowles heard the criticism and started throwing the woodshed at him. And then I would say, just understand that they're going to make big plays. Don't get down on yourself. Just limit. You got to know that, hey, a big play is going to hit us over the top. A big play is going to hit us on a run if we feel wrong. They might hit a play action on us. Regroup, get set, go again. Because this defense here has been don't break. And if you can let them work their way down, they feel, for some reason, way better closer to the goal line than they do anywhere else on the field.
It's a crazy thing, but you're so right, dude. It's knowing that they're going to get theirs, right? You're not going to shut this team out. If you do, fantastic. And, start getting your ring size because that'd be incredible. But you're not going to do that. This offense is too explosive. And what I think, in my opinion, Dylan Gabriel is too veteran. He's too experienced of a guy. And that's going to be really what stands out to me in this one. You're going to have 2 of the most veteran quarterbacks in all of college football kind of going toe-to-toe. And where I think Ohio State can get a serious advantage is, yes, obviously you have to defend the pass. They took us over in the pass game the first time around. But all of it stemmed from being ahead of the sticks, ahead of the change. I say it every week. We saw the evidence of it last week when you take a team's run game away and you force a quarterback to just drop back and pass against this crazy defense. It's not going to go very well. If Ohio State can do that and they can limit Jordan James on early downs so that Oregon's not in 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 5, they're in those 2nd and long sets, then you're in better shape because as a defense, he's got to drop back and you can really get after him and force him to be pressured. So for me, it's putting a stop to the run game. And then exactly what you said, I totally agree. Stick in it. They're going to get theirs when they do hit a big play. Regroup, reset, and get ready to go from there because it's going to be a long game. You got to outlast this one for 60 minutes. You're going to need every single second of it, just as you did the first time around. So, Kev, as we get out of here, any final thoughts? We got one more show tomorrow on Tuesday coming your way, and then all of a sudden it's game day. It'll be game day in Southern California. Something that's really, really exciting for all Buckeye Nation. But Kev, any final thoughts as we put a bow on this one?
No, I'm jealous of you and Brendan that you guys get to be there in person. Hopefully, it'll be I'm hoping for a good game on our end. But I know it's a fun atmosphere. It's a fun environment. My only advice is in and out is not worth it. Don't go. Yeah, but that's just me.
We may get some hate for that. I tend to share in that thought. I waited in line my first time out to California. I waited in a 30-minute line. I was expecting it, and I just was like, "This is it. What's this hype about?"
Get some sushi out there. That's where That's where it's good. And then that's my advice. Go
All
from
right.
there and then cheer on the Bucks. Get to passing early. It's going to be hard to get in and out of that stadium. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I love it. It's going to be certainly a very fun trip. So if you're heading out west, be safe travels out there. I know we got some weather coming through Ohio in the next couple of days. So get out while you can and safe travels west for everybody. But if you're not heading out west, hit that subscribe button to this channel. We're going to have a ton of content coming your way from us being out there. It'll start on YouTube, but we're going to have our social pages flooded too. So head over to our page on X or Twitter, whatever, and go follow us there. I'll be out there kind of running it from that perspective. So get there, hit that subscribe button to the channel. Also head over to our website, si.com/college/Ohio State. Our team's working really, really hard to have a bunch of fresh content for you all throughout the day. So whenever you get to reading it, we have something available for you. So for this episode, for this Matchup Monday episode, we took a look at the Ohio State defense versus the Oregon offense. What must those Buckeyes do to get out of there with the win? And I think the formula is simple. Stop the run, limit the big plays, and stay in it all game long. For my partner, Kevin Woidke, I'm Anthony Moeglin. Thanks for hanging out with us on this episode on Ohio State Buckeyes on SI.